Hey y'all, it's Janelle, your basic bee. I wanted to come in today and talk a little bit about some warning signs that you're going to be laid off. All right, I think that right now it's a huge topic on the mind of many. And the reason it's on the mind of many is because it's happening. According to the WARN Act, in March, there are going to be a series of already planned layoffs. We're talking FedEx, we're talking Kohl's, we're talking Guitar Center, we're talking Kaiser Permanente, Joann's, AT&T. I mean, the list goes on and on, not to mention all the federal workers who are either going to be laid off or going to be asked if they want to take a buyout. Okay, so I thought I would come to you as an HR professional that has not only been in numerous layoffs, but also been laid off myself. So let's talk about the top 15 red flags that you're going to be laid off. Number 15, you get a recent addition on your calendar for a 10 or 15-minute touch base. They're usually random, and you usually don't know the reason or the purpose. It's just called a touch base. Now, you might recognize the person who's going to be in the meeting with you. You might not recognize that name. Either way, it's a huge indicator that you are going to be laid off. Number 14, there are too many people doing what you're doing, okay? They don't need as many people running the same points as you. Maybe you are a team of 15 in marketing. Maybe you are a team of 20 in human resources. Watch out, especially when you are in a non-revenue generating role. That's HR, recruiting, that's IT, that's marketing, that's finance. You get the picture. If you do not generate revenue for your business, then you're most likely going to be let go, especially if there are too many of you already in place. Maybe the company once had high hopes that it was going to grow exponentially, but now they realize that we are in a downtrodden market and they have to make some huge cuts in order to continue their revenue sustainability. All right. Number 13, and this is a big one. Usually people don't realize this one, and that is when the executives are in lockdown meetings all of a sudden, just out of nowhere. They're in sudden meetings, they're in sudden retreats, they're in sudden, like, we can't get a hold of our executive team because they're all together and they are brainstorming. What they're usually brainstorming is how to do a mass layoff and who is going to be laid off and how they are going to do their damage control after the layoff. So if you notice that the executive team or upper leadership are sequestered in meetings, that's usually a huge indicator that you are going to be let go. Next, you might get a meeting for a town hall or whatever your company calls a town hall meeting. However, you notice that you have one link and your colleague has a different looking link. That's usually a really big hint that there's going to be team A that gets the bad message that unfortunately today is going to be your last day or your last week, and thank you for your contributions. HR will reach out to you later today individually, blah blah blah. And team B that gets the hey team, we had to do some, make some really tough decisions today, and we had to let go of a number of your colleagues, but you made the cut. Basically, you made the cut. We're keeping you. You're the creme de la creme. You're the cream of the crop. Congratulations, go team. You're left shell-shocked. But if you see two different links, and especially if they're at the same time, you're going to be in one of the affected groups or the remaining group. All right, that's a huge one. Next up, your projects or your tasks or anything that you might have worked on continuously start to decrease. You're not getting anything new. You're just wrapping things up at this point, and you're kind of looking around like, what's my next objective? That's a huge indicator that you're going to be cut from your team. Next up is your manager or your manager's manager wants to talk to you about your role. They start poking and prodding. What do you do? What are your projects like? How busy is your day? Who do you work with? What teams? Who's your network outside of here, meaning for the company? They want to get a perspective so they know what to do after you have been removed from your role. Okay, it's the best way that they can rebound and not have too many hiccups in the process. So if you notice that your manager, your manager's manager is taking a little bit more look or kind of feeling you out a little bit more when they didn't in the past, it is a huge indicator that you are going to be laid off. All right, next up, and a lot of people don't like this one because they're like, well, this just makes me unhappy in general. But the next one is, if there have been one or more layoffs in the past, it's typically a huge red flag that there are going to be more into the future. Now, I usually say if it's one layoff that has happened recently, get prepared. If there are more than one layoff, you better get your engines running at all cylinders, because there's definitely going to be another layoff. The past is a good indicator of what's going to happen in the future, especially in this really downtrodden economy. This economy is just, I don't think I've seen anything like it for at least the last decade. It is absolutely stunning and breaks my heart, but it's reality. It's happening. So if you have seen a layoff happen, it's most likely going to affect you as well. All right, next up, if your equipment stops working, you don't have access to platforms that you had in the past, maybe it says access denied, password not recognizable, username unknown, that's a huge indicator that you're going to be laid off. And I'm sorry, and I wish I could say that in a much gentler way, but if you see that, you're most likely going to be eliminated that day or the next day. Okay, next up, and a lot of people are like, this seems kind of funny, but why would that affect me? But if your boss is let go and or replaced, then most likely buckle up, because you're going to be replaced as well. Typically what happens is, if they want to restructure a department, they are going to bring in their own trusted resources, right? So if a new leader comes in, They bring in people that they've worked with in the past, or they bring in people that they want to hire. They completely do a refresh on the department. So if your boss is let go or replaced, it's typically a good indicator that you will also be replaced, either now or very, very soon. All right, next up, your meetings start to get canceled. They just start poof, 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 evaporating into thin air. And you're like, okay, our weekly department meetings are getting canceled. Maybe our quarterly town halls get, evaporated into thin air. Maybe it's all hands on deck meeting. I don't know, however your company typically does something. If those start to move away, then typically that means you're not going to be a part of this company much longer. Okay? Meetings don't just go away for no reason at all. There's a reason, and that's because you're not going to be there, your role won't be there, so they just start getting canceled. Next up, you see a meeting on your calendar and your boss doesn't know what it is and they can't explain it. Maybe you see an impromptu meeting and your manager's not in it and you're like, ring, ring. Janelle, I see a meeting on my calendar at 4 p.m. Do you know what that's about? And if your manager doesn't know what that's about, then you're going to be let go. Managers typically know everything on a person's calendar, or they approve it, or they have some kind of understanding of what it is that's going to take place on your calendar. Your time, they have to explain away. They have to account for every minute that you're working, essentially. So if they don't know about it, that's a huge indicator that you are going to be laid off. All right, next up. Business is slow. You might think, okay, it's just off season for us. We're going to pick back up. We have a new client we're entertaining. Whatever it is, if things have just become very slow and very uneventful, and your CEO or your president of your company isn't, having a go team, we got this, we got this in the works and that in the works, and we are having an exciting year ahead of us. If you're not experiencing that, you're going to be laid off. Businesses cannot survive without being productive and being busy. And if their clients start to pull out, and it's a huge client for them, or several, smaller businesses for them, they cannot keep you employed. I mean, that's obvious, right? They have to stay scalable and sustainable. Otherwise, it starts to eat into their profits. And basically it becomes a problem. They get into the red. So if you notice that the business is slow or they're losing certain clients, then buckle up, because it is most likely an indicator that you will be losing your job. Let's see. Next up, if you are a remote employee, I hate to say this, but you're most likely going to be in the first or second round of layoffs, because it's kind of like the out of sight, out of mind mentality. So if your boss or the executives don't see you, don't really have a bond with you, they don't know how amazing you are or what you do, because you're over here in Wisconsin and they're in California, or they just don't have enough context or connection with you, then you're most likely going to be laid off. All right, I'm coming to my last two, and then I'm gonna wrap it up. So next is, if you're still in office and amenities start to change within your office, again, get ready, hold on tight. There's going to be a layoff and it might affect you. Typically, I've seen it where first office services team gets cut, the facilities person, the office runners, the interns, the assistants. Then it becomes things that are small, like we're not getting snacks in anymore, we're not doing lunches, there's no free water, I mean, it gets really bare bones, where you might see, some trail mix in the office if you can find it, and then there's not going to be any trail mix anymore or popcorn anymore for the next 2 weeks. So if you notice that, then more than likely you are being laid off. I know it seems like, well, what does that have to do with me? But really, companies that have to pinch that deep can't sustain a $40,000 paycheck or an $80,000 or $100,000 or $150,000 paycheck. If they can't afford Skittles, they can't afford your salary. Okay? I've also seen companies where they start to turn the AC off at a certain time, or there's no security guards anymore where there used to be. Any of those are huge red flags, so be aware. And last, and certainly not least, but if there has been any outsourcing within your company, then baby, most likely that outsourcing is going to hit your department and your job. So if you start seeing new faces on your team meetings you never seen before, and they're overseas, and the execs preface it as, hey, can you take them under your wing so they know how the company works, and you give them the background, and you teach them what your job is, and you teach them some of our company ways. That's just a very insidious way for companies to bring in your replacement at a fraction of the cost. All right, so if you think it's just going to happen in one department, that's definitely rarely the case. So it's usually going to happen as many departments as they could possibly make it happen with. All right, so what can you do if any of these things happen? You lose your job today, you lose your job tomorrow. Number one, dust yourself off. This is a momentary blip. This is not an indicator of who you are or what you bring to the table. It's just a company doing its purge process. It's trying to get its legs underneath them. It's trying to gain some stability, and unfortunately, they're not able to rationalize your continuing with the business. All right, at least not right now. So what you can do immediately, first and foremost, is negotiate your severance. Very important. Look at the terms on your agreement. If you are an employee over the age of 40, you have a longer time frame in which to agree on the severance terms. Also, if your company is offering you 2 weeks, ask for 6 weeks. If your company is offering you 4 weeks, ask for 12 weeks. You know how this works. Always ask for double so they can meet in the middle and give you at least a little bit more than what is on the current document. Okay, so negotiate and renegotiate if you have to. Do it quick. Don't sit on it too long, especially if you're not over the age of 40 and you don't have that extra privilege of time. Okay. Next, ensure that they are going to provide you with a positive letter of recommendation. So you can have that within your portfolio. You can take it to your next opportunity and say, look, I left this company on good terms. Here's my letter of recommendation. Ensure that your company is not going to contest your unemployment. It's very important that you make sure that's outlined. I have seen companies where they do try to contest, even though it's no fault of your own. You've been let go because the company is just not scaling properly, and they try to contest your unemployment benefits. The reason being is the companies are the ones that contribute to the unemployment benefits bucket, and they have the right, just like any kind of insurance program, they have the right to contest it. So make sure that you have heard from them that they're not going to contest it. Maybe you get it in writing, etc. Ask for things like outplacement services. Outplacement services can be career coaching. It could be a resume review. It could be any number of resources that might be available to you to make you a little bit more lucrative in your job search, promote you a little bit better, give you a little bit of a push to your next endeavor. Then immediately get to your resume and refresh it. Okay, you want to rejuvenate it. You want to make it as concise and wonderful as humanly possible, right? But you want to condense it into being something that somebody could look at within 90 seconds to determine if they want to bring you in for an interview. Okay, so refresh your resume, make it concise, make it applicable. Have another resume if you're applying for a different industry that shows your transferable skills. So for example, I've been in human resources for over 2 decades. I might want to take an opportunity in operations, or I want to take an opportunity and dip my toe in marketing. I need to be able to show my transferable skills to indicate why a business would want to bring me in if I don't necessarily have those job titles on my resume. Okay, so look at your transferable skills and make them apply for your second type of resume. Then get every eye that you believe is smart or savvy or professional to look at your resume and give you tips. Those could be also people who look at your LinkedIn. Go to your LinkedIn and say, hey, can somebody take a look at my LinkedIn page or my resume and tell me what I'm missing here, or what would make me a little bit more of a better applicant in today's market. And when they do give you that feedback, don't take it personal, because they might be telling you some really good things, but it's hard to take. The human ego is an amazingly flawed thing. We usually take feedback as a criticism instead of taking it as a gift, a different perspective, a fresh set of eyes. That's important. So get the feedback on your resume, your LinkedIn, your portfolio, whatever it is that you have. Get many eyes on these documents, and then take the feedback and really let it digest and apply it if it really makes sense, right? Don't get hurt by it. And my last recommendation for you is, during this time, take a class. Take a class to refresh your skills, or a class that might make you feel a little bit better in your own, to your own self, right? Take a class, maybe get a certification, an accreditation. If you're like me in human resources, maybe you need a certain number of units for your current certifications. Whatever it is, take some time, get some webinars under your belt, whatever it is. This is you time, okay? This is you reinvesting in yourself. This is you wanting to acquire some skill set that you haven't been able to because you've been tied down to your job and literally just running on the hamster wheel nonstop. So now is your time in which you can apply some self-love and care and tune in to some additional ways to make yourself marketable in today's economy. I hope this has been helpful. if you're being laid off today or tomorrow, just know that this is not about you necessarily. It's about a company who is stretched thin, a company who doesn't want to see the company completely go under. They have to make some really hard decisions. Typically, it is not about your skill set. It's not about your personality, your creativity, none of that. It's simply about the business and making sure the business continues, right? No one person is better than the business. No one person is more important than the business. So just don't take this personal. I know it hurts. It stings. And if you're on the job market for an extended amount of time, it really starts to wear on your self-esteem. But just know this is not permanent, okay? You will rebound. You will find something new. You will get your confidence back. Trust the process. But that doesn't mean bury your head in the sand. So if any of these top 15 red flags for a layoff resonate with you, then just know to prepare yourself so it's not as much of a shock to your system when it does happen. So I hope today's 15 red flags for you might possibly be laid off has helped you, or at least brought you some kind of comfort, so you can recognize, you can plan, and you can execute. I'm Janelle. I'm your basic B, HR professional of 20 years, and I'm currently on the job market as well. I'll talk to you soon. Much love.